Hello you guys and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kate and I own Vogue Society Boutique. And oh my goodness, you guys, I have been reflecting so much over these past few weeks with closing down our second location. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you've got to go back and watch my journey videos and just some of my recent videos about having two stores be condensed into one. And there's so much that I've kind of just like been reflecting on and wanted to share with you guys, because there's 6 things that I think took me a long time to learn, but in reality, like, are so helpful. So let's just get right into it today. Number 1 thing that I have learned over the years, maybe the hard way, is that just because somebody has a storefront, an office space, or a warehouse and you don't, does not mean that they are more profitable than you. There might be someone who has a brick and mortar store and an online store and does pop-ups all the time, and she's making $50,000 a month in revenue. You might be running your boutique out of your bedroom and making $15,000 a month in revenue. If you have no employees and you are not spending anything on marketing and you are running things out of your house and you essentially have no overhead, then most likely you're going to make like $8,000 to $9,000, just ballparking, whatever, in profit a month. Whereas the girl over here making $50,000 a month, if she has a full-time employee and she is paying for pop-up like vendor fees and is also spending money on marketing and in rent and all the different like fixtures and things that you need to have a store, there is a really good chance that they are not as profitable as the guy at home that it has no overhead at all. Obviously, this is not always the case, that's for sure. And yes, it is fun and obviously a goal of mine and of a lot of people to have a storefront. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just want to make the point across that if you are still running your business from home and you don't feel legit enough, then just know that you might be making more than someone who has an office space or has a warehouse space. I just know when I first started, I was starting out of our house, and yes, we were kind of like outgrowing our house in terms of like the actual space. And so we did get a storefront, and I don't regret it, but I do wish I kind of knew at that point that it didn't make me like not legit to be running my business out of my house. And I know this was like before COVID, before it was like cool to run a business out of your house, but truly, like, just know that there is so much money to be made and you can be super profitable just running your business from home. Number 2, email and text lists are so important. Thankfully, this one I actually did learn early on, and I am really thankful for that. I don't know what it was that made me from day 1 focus so hard on getting emails and text numbers to text from my customers. A lot of people I know have been in business for years and have not focused on this, and they've lost out on thousands of emails or phone numbers that they could be using today to market to those customers and bring them back again. So thankfully, this is one thing that it didn't take me a long time to learn, but I know a lot of people do. So I did want to mention it in this video. So basically, every single time I have ever checked out a customer in my store or online or at a pop-up shop over the years, I have always asked them for their email address and added them to our email list. And also back in like 2019, I added text message marketing to my business as well. And 99%, I think it's 99% of text messages are read within 5 minutes. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is, or maybe 90%. But that's a huge number. People are looking at their phones immediately when they get a text. And I know now versus 5 years ago in 2019, and wow, I just realized that 2019 was 5 years ago. Like what? Now compared to then, obviously more and more people have hopped on this trend, which means that it's a little bit more saturated in the customer's phone. I'm sure if you're anything like me, I'm always getting texts to my phone that are talking about sales or whatever. And so it's a little bit more saturated. I'm not paying attention as much, but I do know that they still do work if you are hyping up a launch and you want people to know as soon as your products are launching on your website. Sending out a text with a link is so important. And same thing with emails. I suggest sending out an email at least 3 times a week to your customer promoting sales, new products, or just collections that you want to highlight to your customers, because this is a great way to get clicks on your website for sure. And so just know that every single time you get a text or oh my God, I keep saying text, a phone number or an email address from someone, you are growing your business. Okay, number 3 is that you need more products to make more sales. And this is something I teeter-totter a little bit, and you have to take that comment with a grain of salt because it's not always necessarily true. However, let's just be real. Let's just take it from a small aspect. If I'm selling this tank top and I'm selling it for $25, let's just say, I don't know how much I'm selling it for, probably like 28 or 32. But if I am selling this tank top for $25 and I only have 4 of them in stock, my potential revenue is only $100. That is all that I can make. That is all the potential revenue I can make. So if I am only selling 1 product on my website and it's $25 and I have 4 of them, then my potential revenue is $100. However, if I have this tank top in 10 different colors and it is $25 a piece, and I have 6 of each of the tank tops because I just got them in and we got 1 pack of each. Let me do the math on that. That is gonna be equal to $1,500 in potential sales. Now, obviously, if you have all products, like all the products on your website are not gonna sell out at one time. If they do, then let me know your secret. But you cannot potentially make $1,500 in sales if you do not have $1,500 worth of retail products on your website. Hopefully that makes sense for you guys. And I'm always big on not overbuying because I have overbought before and it's not fun. And what happened to me most recently when I overbought was basically I had 2 storefronts and I was opening the second one up and it was kind of during a slower time of the year, and I got 4 packs of everything because I was used to having 1 storefront. And I also sold online too. So 2 packs was really good for me. That was a good amount for me to always purchase of each item. But when I opened my second store, I just figured, okay, 2 stores, then we'll double that. And I ordered 4 packs of things. Now, if it's a hot seller, that's not gonna be an issue because you're gonna sell the 4 packs. And I did on a lot of the things. Well, most things now, but it took me a while. But there were some products that were just mistakes, and you're always gonna have mistakes. And I had 4 packs of each of those, which meant that I had 24 of each of those products that were mistakes. And it was really hard for me to move out those products. So by no means should you go out and spend $1 million on inventory if you don't already have sales. However, just know that if you're consistently making sales and you want to know how to make more sales, then maybe try buying a little bit more inventory and really looking at the numbers of what is your potential revenue and how much do you think you can sell? Because the more options you have, the more likely someone is to purchase something. I've also kind of learned this as well in my storefront, especially with my second storefront. When I opened my second storefront, I was like, no big deal. I'm just going to, have these certain racks, put the clothes on the racks, whatever. And obviously it was a little bit more in depth than that. But my store was full. I don't think it looked empty. It was full, but it could have been fuller. And if you have the traffic, I would 100% say stuff it up, have as many products as you possibly can without, you going into major amounts of debt or without making your store look too crowded, but definitely have a lot for the customer to choose from. Because what I've really learned and what has really opened my eyes in the past, especially a few weeks, is that when I condense 2 stores into one, my store is so much more full now. And you guys, our sales, we're killing in-store sales. And I hate tooting my own horn ever, but it just kind of shows that the more options you have and the more products that you have and the more sizes and whatnot, the more likely that you are to like make a sale. So don't overbuy, but just be aware that your customers do need selection. So just keep that in mind. This one is a big one that has taken me a long time to kind of wrap my head around, but sometimes bigger markups don't necessarily mean more money. I don't know if that makes sense, but let me explain. Okay, so let's say I buy this tank top for $10 wholesale, okay? And I wanna mark it up 3 times. We're gonna do a 3 times markup, so we're gonna sell this tank top for $30. I know I said previously it was $25, but for this example, it's $30. Okay, how much am I making on that tank top? I'm making 20 bucks on this tank top, right? I've always been someone who's like 3 times markup or 60% margin, whatever. It's kind of usually equals the same thing, at least in my mind. But let's just say 3 times markup. I'm like, oh my gosh, like we need the 3 times markup. And then I would like not buy certain items because I'd be like, well, I can't get 3 times markup on that. So for example, I would like not buy a pair of really cool shoes, for example, because for $50 wholesale, because I'm like, there's no way I can sell that for $150 wholesale. And that's just like an example. There are some things for sure, especially shoes, that I would buy for $50 wholesale and I could sell them for $150, and I have. And I'm still making that 3 times markup. But there are some things that, or maybe they're closer in the 30s or the 40s, and I'm like, those are so expensive wholesale. They're so cute, but they're so expensive wholesale, and I'm never gonna get a 3% or 3 times markup on those. So I would pass and not buy it. But something that I have kind of learned, and like, duh, it's like literally just like common sense, but I was like so stuck in my like practices that I was like, I really need to step out and think outside the box for a second. So you may not be able to sell something for $150, but can you sell that $50 product for $100? And if that's the case, then you're only doing a 2 times markup. But guess what? You're making $50 on that product. And even though this tank top has a 3 times markup, you're only making $20 on the product. So I know it's kind of simple, but if you're someone like me that's like always focused on the numbers of like, oh my gosh, like there's no way I can sell that for my 3 times markup, like no way. Just think like, how much are you making on that one specific product? You know what I mean? It's just something to think about. Number 4, don't have so many rules. You're not a big corporation, most likely. So act like a small business and not a corporation. And the reason I say this, or like hopefully what I'm trying to say, is that when I first started, I would act like I was like a big corporation with a big team and big rules and all of these types of like policies and things like that. I would say, oh yeah, we'll have customer service get back to you. Who's customer service? It's literally me. And the thing I've learned is that people aren't gonna think you're weird if you're running the business by yourself. And that has taken me, like, it literally took me years to learn that. And they're actually going to want to shop with you more if they know that you're the face and behind the the customer, oh my gosh, the customer service or the social media or the person who's steaming their clothes and all of that kind of stuff. Like I used to have rules where if I would kind of tease a product online and someone would be like, oh my God, like I can't be on the website tonight at 8 o'clock. Is there any way I can buy this early? And I'd be like, no, sorry. Like, unfortunately, like I have to like launch it at 8 and you're just like, just to make it fair for everybody else. And honestly, like at that point, like when I was doing launches, especially like in 2020 during the pandemic and things like that, it really was selling out like when I dropped it. But if someone's a good customer, I've kind of learned like, yeah, like I will sell it to you now. And what is the difference between if you make the sale early now or if you make the sale then? Now, if you only have 6 because you're only buying 1 pack and 6 people DM you early when you are saying that it's going to launch at 8, you don't want to sell out of everything. So I'm not saying like everything is an exception. But all I'm saying is that why not just say, yeah, girl, like I'll send you an invoice for it now. Or if somebody's like, hey, is there any way that I can like pick this up instead of having it shipped? Like, is there a code I can get for free shipping and I can just pick it up at your house or at your store? I mean, this is totally up to you if you have different boundaries and things like that. But for me, I would be like, no, sorry, like we only ship items, blah, 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 blah. But I've kind of like came to the realization that like customer service comes first, and would I rather make a sale? Yeah. So I'd be like, yeah, of course. Going into this too is return policy. It is scientifically proven that the more lenient your return policy is, the less returns you are going to get. And I've known this fact literally since I started, and I have always ignored it. When I first started, our return policy was that you had 14 days to get a store credit if you had a return. Then when I opened my store in the mall, I did 14 days to get your money back and then 30 days for a store credit. And then most recently, I have just changed my return policy to 30 days and you can get your money back. And it's super simple. So number one, it tells the customer that they could trust you because there's really no risk in buying the product because they could just return it. There's no risk. And on the other hand, it is scientifically proven. And I've had my return policy like this for about a month and I've never had less returns. No one's returning anything because they know that they have a long time. And just think about it. When you have like an Amazon return or something like that, you know you have a lot of time to go and return it. So it sits there for a while and it sits there and it sits there. If you're anything like me, and then eventually you're like, wait, 2 months has passed? And then you're like, oops, well, that's just my mistake. And then you don't return it. And although my return policy is super lenient, if you are past the date, then I'm not going to be lenient about it because you had so much time to return it. But I'll obviously, like, again, make an exception if they are a good customer and they're right there, especially if they're right there in the store or whatever. I'll just say like, yeah, you could have store credit instead or something like that. So there's definitely ways to be more lenient and really lean into like being a small business and connecting with your customer. And that's something that I've really leaned into in these past few months. And I feel like it has paid off tenfold. I have to kind of like let the money the good vibes flow, and then the good vibes, aka money, flow back to me. And number 6, and this isn't going to apply to everyone, it's basically only if you have like employees, I guess. But the thing that I've learned is that you can be friends or even family with your employees. So when I first started my store, we had employees pretty early on when we opened our first storefront, like a year in. And I feel like, I mean, that was like a way different time, and they were a lot younger than me because the girls that we had hired were a lot younger. But I was like super, again, like corporate-y. Like I would be like, I would not talk about like anything like personally, not like nothing personally, but like, you know, nothing that was like not office appropriate. And obviously like I still do that when I'm getting to like before I like know someone, I guess. Like I'm not gonna like tell you all my personal life details. But I slowly learned because I was always kind of like afraid to be like friends with someone and then it'd be kind of like weird that we're like friends, but I'm also like their boss type of thing. But what I've learned is that if you find the right people and then you like slowly develop that relationship over time, your employees can become some of your best friends and be like family. And I have my employee Summer that was our manager at our mall store, and she is still going to be working with us in the future at the other store and then with social media and things like that. But I like became really good friends with her. She went on my bachelorette trip. I feel like also we're both mature enough to like know like to respect each other's boundaries. And that's kind of like a rule of thumb even with my friends in general. So I'm not gonna be friends with someone unless they respect me, and like obviously I respect them back. But I feel like some people are like, oh, you can't be friends with your employees, but I don't think so. Like Now I have like a really great group of employees at our St. Pete location, and we're all friends. We're texting each other all the time, and it just kind of like makes it easier to be like real and like respect each other's time and things like that. So although obviously like in some ways you have to set boundaries, I definitely think you can be friends with your employees and they can become like lifelong friends. Okay, so those were 6 things that took me a long time to learn and figure out in this business, but they work out pretty well, and feel like I kind of had those in my mind and wanted to share them with you guys. So let me know if this video was helpful at all and your thoughts on anything. Was anything controversial below? Let me know, and I will see you guys in my next video. Again, please be sure to subscribe if you like this kind of content, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.